Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Amma ba'd. Dear viewers, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We welcome you from our studios in Cairo, delving into a topic of utmost importance, a topic of one of the 5 pillars of Islam, al-Hajj, and the fiqh of Hajj. Hajj is known to be one of a lifetime opportunity where people would spend their lives saving up for an opportunity like this. People would spend their whole life saving up and trying to endure this journey, a journey of a lifetime. So what should we do when we get to Hajj? How do we prepare to even go to Hajj to begin with? What do we do when we get there? Should we ask or should we study first? Obviously, to study Islam and to study Hajj before we go, it is better for us to do so. So when we get there, we're able to perform Hajj according to the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how Allah wants us to perform it, and upon the sunnah of His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Joined with us today in our studio is our none other Sheikh Wasim Kempson. Welcome, Sheikh Wasim.
Barakallahu feek. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And inshallah ta'ala, he will be helping us undergo this journey of how to prepare, what to look for, and what to do, what not to do. So at the end of these series, inshallah ta'ala, we are prepared to go and perform this obligation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the utmost perfection, inshallah ta'ala. So with that, we begin, Sheikh Wasim. Barakallahu feekum. What do we mean by fiqh, for example, because this topic is called fiqh of Hajj. What does the word fiqh mean essentially?
Jazakumullah khair. Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam wa rasulillah. Praise belongs to Allah, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon His final messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So al-fiqh, if you want to translate it into the English language, we'd put it as understanding, or to have an awareness and knowing of something. And whenever we talk about any Islamic topic, it is important we talk about definitions, because it allows us to stay within the topic of itself and to understand, which goes back to what we're talking about anyway, fiqh meaning understanding, and to understand the topic as it was given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
MashaAllah. So fiqh essentially means the understanding.
Yes.
MashaAllah. So the topic is fiqh of Hajj. So understanding Hajj. What does Hajj mean?
So moving on from fiqh, it has an Islamic meaning as well. And the Islamic meaning of fiqh would be for a person to understand and how to derive the rulings which are extracted from the sources, meaning the Quran and the Sunnah, and then to act upon it. So then we go into the understanding of Hajj. It would mean going into the Quran and into the Sunnah, the traditions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, extracting all the ayat, the verses and the ahadith pertaining to Hajj. Then you understand, what am I supposed to do on this day? Because Hajj is all about what to do at certain times. It is not about doing things as you like. It's not about just turning up in Mecca and just performing tawaf and then going to Muzdalifah and Mina and all the other places as you like. You do it as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us. So Hajj is to understand, is to intend. The Hajj itself is to intend. Again, linguistically, yeah. However, according to Islam, the Sharia meaning or the Islamic meaning, it would mean to intend to go to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to perform certain actions at a specific time if the conditions have been fulfilled. So this is an Islamic definition of Hajj. So it stops a person performing Hajj at the beginning of the year, because the definition tells us it has to be done at a specific time. Wallahu a'lam.
Jazakallah khair. So what is the ruling of Hajj and what is its reward?
So subhanAllah, talking about Hajj is always a beautiful thing to do. Always speaking about worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is a beautiful thing to talk about. It raises the iman. So Al-Hajj is, as you mentioned, it is at the beginning is one of the pillars of Al-Islam. And if you imagine, because it's something that the Prophet ﷺ gave us, things for us to think about and to ponder over and to imagine. What is a pillar? A pillar is something that keeps the structure upright. If the pillars are removed, it collapses. So Hajj is one of those pillars that allows a person to keep their Islam firm and upright. So the Prophet ﷺ told us, because it's not about do's and don'ts, yes and no. The Prophet ﷺ, like we find in the Quran, there's a great emphasis on the virtues and the blessings of performing the Hajj. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ, be quick to the goodness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ said in another sound hadith that the accepted Hajj has no other reward except the paradise. So the stakes are very high for us as Muslims. It is the paradise if a person has an accepted Hajj.
We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to always grant us Hajj Mabrur and grant us that paradise that we all yearn for. Allahumma ameen. Can you tell us a little bit of when Hajj was obligated and how it was obligated?
So in Islam you find that we don't have the Quran coming down all in one book and all the rulings at one time upon the Muslims. This happened with previous nations like Musa alayhi salam. However, we know that the Quran was revealed piecemeal over a period of about 23 years. And we can separate these 23 years into two sections. You have the Meccan period and you have the Madani period. In the Meccan period, there was only a few rules and regulations. It was mainly in the Madani period that there were rules and regulations, halal and haram. So for example, the Salah was obligated at the beginning of the Madani period. And likewise the Adhan, and likewise other halal and haram issues from the Shara'i from Islam. However, Hajj was something that was delayed. And the most correct opinion, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, and of course when we're discussing Hajj and we're discussing other issues, there are always other views, and we must respect those other views. We don't want to say that they are wrong and we are correct. But for the purpose of learning, we have to start from somewhere. So when I mention this happens to be the opinion that we're going to take, we don't want to disregard, because we have to honor the other scholars who came before us and the other opinions. However, it seems, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, that the Hajj became an obligation in the 9th year after Hijrah, which is very close to the death of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, maybe just 2 years before he passed away. So all those years before, subhanAllah, Hajj was not an obligation. So it was obligated, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, in the 9th year.
Shaykhna, may Allah preserve you. When and how was Hajj obligated upon the Muslims?
طيب. So we know that in Islam, that rulings came down gradually. They did not come in one go. An example of this is alcohol. We know that there are different ayat in the Quran which talk about alcohol. Originally it was permitted. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the ruling about people not coming or approaching the salah. Do not approach salah wa antum sukara. Do not approach the prayer when you are in a state of drunkenness or you are intoxicated. And then later on, in Surah Al-Ma'idah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala completely banned it. فَاجْتَنِبُوا, that you need to stay away from it. So rulings came down gradually. In nations that came previous to us, that the wahi, the revelation, came to them in one go, like to Bani Israel. However, in Islam we see that gradually rulings came. In Mecca, the rulings weren't so much. It was the focus on Iman, it was focusing on the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the hereafter. It is only when you reach the Madani period, which is the last 10 or 11 years of the Prophet Muhammad's life, that you find that the rulings, especially with Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah Ali Imran and Nisa and Surah Al-Ma'idah, these are Madani chapters of the Quran. And in them you find many, many rulings concerning the Salah, concerning inheritance, concerning fasting, concerning zakah and whatnot. Now, with regards to the obligation of Hajj, when was it actually obligated? The scholars have differed over this. Some of the scholars are of the opinion that in the earlier Madani period that it became an obligation. Others are of the view that actually in the 9th year after Hijrah that it became an obligation upon the Muslims. You can perform Hajj before that, Hajj was known. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions it in the Quran, وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنْ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا, that Allah Azza wa Jal has upon people the pilgrimage, whoever has the ability to do so. Likewise, from the Sunnah, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Ta'ajjulu," that be quick, hasten to perform the Hajj. And what seems to be more correct, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, and we are not dismissing, and it's important that we honor and we respect the other views, but the Hajj became an obligation in the 9th year after Hijrah.
MashaAllah, Jazakallah khair. So as an individual right now, is Hajj an obligation on me now immediately? Or is there some sort of leeway or space for me to perform Hajj at my leisure, my time? I'm talking about like when I can do it.
Yeah, it's a very good question. So if we can establish now that we are in the year, mashallah, more than 1400 years later than when the Hajj was obligated. Now, what is the situation? Do I have to do it straight away if I fulfill the conditions? Or can I, for example, say, right, I've got a few things to do this year, I can leave it for another year? The majority of the scholars are of the view that once the conditions have been fulfilled, the obligation becomes upon you immediately without any delay, meaning that you're not allowed to delay. If you do delay it, you'll be sinful. This is the view of the majority of the scholars. There's a minority group of the scholars, who to be respected as well, view it like the prayer. They say, when adhan for Salat al-Dhuhr comes in, you have all the way till the time of Asr to perform it, and they view it like this. However, looking at the evidences, it seems that the Hajj is al al-fawr, which means it should be done immediately. Now, as we mentioned earlier, and this is a good argument, this is a good discussion actually, that the Hajj became an obligation in the 9th year. Did the Prophet ﷺ perform Hajj in the 9th year? He didn't. In fact, he sent Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu to lead the Muslims to perform Hajj in that year. The Prophet ﷺ made only one Hajj in his life in the year after that. So what is the reasoning? Thinking, why? How did the Prophet ﷺ not perform Hajj when we know it is to be done straight away? It is known that in the 9th year after Hijrah, that the Prophet ﷺ was overwhelmed with the number of tribes and people visiting the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, so he was unable. For this reason, he gave the responsibility to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu to lead the people in Hajj. And then the very next year, the Prophet ﷺ did in fact perform the Hajj.
SubhanAllah. Jazakallah khair. So naturally, the next question would be, what are the conditions of Hajj that make it an obligation on one to do it immediately, fawran, as you mentioned, Shaykh?
Yeah, so for the Hajj to become an obligation upon that individual, because there's a difference between some Hajj being accepted and the Hajj becoming an obligation. Because you may find a child who does Hajj, but it's not an obligation upon them, but it is accepted, inshallah ta'ala. So as for the wujub or the obligation, then there are a number of conditions. And for the woman, there's an extra condition. So the first three that they mention, the scholars, they say al-Islam, once a person is a Muslim, and also aqil, that they have a sound mind, and that they have reached the age of puberty. And that may differ from males and females. So the signs for both males and females is that if they have hair, for example, growing around the private area, then we say that you've reached the age of puberty. And for a woman, an extra one, if she starts her monthly cycle, then she will be considered an adult. So these are the first three conditions. So Islam, you have a sound mind, and you have reached puberty. And also, you have Zad, you have the financial means. You have the financial means of you going there and returning. And also, Ar-Rahila is that you have the means of actually traveling safely and returning as well. Okay? So the person has the financial means and also has the ability to go. It's a safe journey for you. Okay? The sixth one, which is specifically for the woman, is that she should not travel for Hajj except with a mahram. And that is a male relative, like her father, her brother, her son, or her uncle. Again, there's an issue which some of the scholars have differed over for the purpose of Hajj and whatnot. It's not for us to go into great discussion over that, what is more correct. But what seems to be based upon the ahadith of the Messenger ﷺ, is that a woman shouldn't travel except with a mahram. We know in the time of the Messenger ﷺ, that a companion, he said, Ya Rasulullah, I have come here because I want to go out and give da'wah with you. However, my wife has gone to perform the Hajj. The Prophet ﷺ said, go with your wife and perform Hajj with her. Even though this individual wanted to do this great deed.
MashaAllah, what a very jam-packed session we have here. Dear viewers, inshallah we're going to be taking a short break and returning soon to continuing this journey with our Shaykh of the Fiqh of Hajj. Stay tuned. Dear viewers, welcome back on this series and this path of seeking knowledge, Fiqh of Hajj. We stopped, Shaykhna, our last note was the conditions. And we mentioned that upon the females have an additional restriction or a condition upon them, which is to take a mahram with them.
Yeah.
But what if one doesn't have a mahram for whatever reasons, and the reasons are many? Let it be maybe a new Muslim who's a convert and doesn't have any male relatives, or a woman whose husband has passed and she doesn't have a mahram per se.
Yeah.
What can she do?
Okay, so when I mentioned the conditions, the scholars look at the conditions from different perspectives, and what I was talking about are the conditions of wujub, meaning when does the Hajj become an obligation upon that individual? Because you also have shurut, or talking about the sihh or the validity of the Hajj as well. Now, once these conditions have been fulfilled, meaning that a person is a Muslim, meaning that if a person who's a non-Muslim performed the Hajj, and then let's say they accepted Islam 10 years later, that Hajj wouldn't be valid for them. You would have to be a Muslim for your Hajj to be valid. So you have to be a Muslim, and also you have to have reached the age of puberty. Once you've gone past that, that's one of the conditions fulfilled for it becoming an obligation upon you. And likewise, that you have sound mind, as opposed to a person who's insane. There's no obligation for that person to perform Hajj, because of the hadith of Ali radiallahu anhu, that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Rufi al-qalam an thalath," that the pen has been raised upon three. What does the pen being raised mean? What does that mean? It means accountability has been raised from three types of people. One of them is a person who has lost their mind, who's insane, until they become of sound mind. One of them is a youngster, and this is what we're talking about, when you're a child and when you reach the age of puberty. Okay, so this is the proof to say that person has, when you reach the age of puberty, you now become accountable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the third condition, these are three conditions. So the first three is Islam, then puberty, and then having sound mind. We also mentioned two others, because it's good for us to talk about these conditions in some detail, because maybe the person at home is realizing, was thinking, do I have to perform Hajj now or not? What's the situation? After us saying that if you have fulfilled the conditions, you have to go. The other one is that you have the zad, that you have the financial means of you performing Hajj. Now, depending on where you are in the world, you'll have different packages, you'll have different groups and different ways of performing and enabling you to make the Hajj. They will say, for example, you pay so many $1,000 or so many thousand riyals or pounds or yen, whatever currency that you have. We have a package to take you for Hajj and to return. Do I have the financial means to go? And when I go, if I have a family, am I able to financially have them stable as well? Let's say, for example, I go for Hajj, I spend all my money on the Hajj package, and I have nothing for my family when I'm away. We'd say you haven't fulfilled the criteria. Financially, you need to be able to go and to financially support your family if they don't go with you while you're away. So this is what we mean by financially able to go. Also, the rahila is that you have some means. Now, of course, when the scholars spoke about rahila, it means that did you have a camel or a horse or something to travel on? That's not something we do in these days, obviously. Even a car. People don't travel to Hajj by car. Well, at least it's very rare. Or people don't travel by a bus and things like that, unless you're very close within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. No. People travel by ship, maybe, or they travel by aeroplanes. As long as that is there facilitated for you, then these are the five conditions that are applicable to the males. If it is the sixth one, which is said specifically for females, and that is that if she has a mahram with her father, son, brother or child, okay, or even a husband, if he is there, he can go with the Hajj, go on the Hajj with her. If she doesn't have any male relative with her in her family, then Hajj, we say, is not an obligation upon her. She's not obligated to make Hajj in the first place. She may have a strong desire to perform Umrah, to perform Hajj. She goes to the TV and she sees people making tawaf around the Kaaba. It's a beautiful place, so much reward there. But the obligation of you won't be asked on Yawm al-Qiyamah, why didn't you make Hajj or why didn't you make Umrah? The condition wasn't fulfilled. So these are the 6 conditions. Should we go through them again?
Please.
Right. So the first one is al-Islam. The second one is puberty, reaching the age of puberty. And then the third one is sound mind. The fourth one is having financial means. The fifth one is having the ability to travel safely, rahila.
Okay.
And then the sixth one is, specifically for a female, for a woman, is that she needs a mahram with her, which is a good, let's see if we say the majority of scholars are of the view that she should have a male guardian when she goes on a long journey.
So going back to the conditions or the obligation of when the obligation falls on a person, they must first meet these conditions. But what if somebody wants to go to Hajj but hasn't met these conditions?
Yeah. So let's say, for example, as a family, we want to go for Hajj.
No.
My son and my daughter's age of 8 or 9, and they haven't reached the age of puberty. They're still considered children. Can we perform Hajj? There are certain circumstances where if the Hajj is performed, then the Hajj can be valid for them, and they are rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the Hajj that they performed. A woman, she came to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and held up her baby. He said, Ya Rasulullah, Ali hadha Hajj? Is there a Hajj for this small baby? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, yes, and you will have reward as well. And this was the nature of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is that when he would give an answer to people, he would not only give you an answer to what you wanted, but he would give you something extra. Subhanallah. Yes, he has the Hajj. So on Yawm al-Qiyamah, it would be, let's assume that that child goes up into an adult, performs Hajj, the Hajj of al-Islam. That person will have, inshallah, 2 Hajjs. Allahu Akbar. So there are times when maybe these conditions haven't been fulfilled, however the Hajj is valid. One of them is if it was done before the age of puberty, but it doesn't count for the Hajj of al-Islam. The person has to have reached beyond the age of puberty for the Hajj to be considered. You've done it as an adult. Likewise, if a woman was to travel, and this is the view of some of the scholars, that she can perform Hajj if there's a group of women and people that can guarantee her safety, as it were, then the Hajj is also valid. Even those scholars who say that she shouldn't travel except with a mahram, and she did perform her Hajj, the Hajj is still valid. Even though she would bear the burden or the accountability of not traveling with a mahram, but the Hajj would still be valid.
No.
Okay? So this is some important points to mention when talking about the conditions.
Jazakallah khair. So I'm a person who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed me with money and time, for example, and I'm able to perform Hajj regularly. Am I obligated to perform Hajj every year, or is it just that one time it's enough? And can I perform it every year, or should I just be enough with one?
So the questions that you're asking, subhanAllah, we find the exact same things happening during the life of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A man, he came to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, do we have to perform Hajj every year? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam remained quiet. The man said for a second time, do we have to perform Hajj every year? Again, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam remained quiet. For a third time, he said, Ya Rasulullah, we have to perform Hajj every year? The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if I were to tell you to do it every year, you wouldn't be able to do it every year. Hajj is only once in the lifetime. The obligation upon you, if the conditions are fulfilled, is only once in your life. If you have the means to do that more, then this is a grace and blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then you can do it as often as you like without causing yourself too much difficulty or your family difficulty financially. But if you have the means, then it is probably the best journey for you to undertake. Wallahu a'lam.
SubhanAllah, the wisdom of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and him foreseeing the future of these millions and millions of people, performing this act of worship, and knowing the difficulty that we will be facing traveling by ship and by plane. SubhanAllah, this only increases you in Iman, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to always increase us in Iman. Ameen.
If I may mention, on this issue, you will find that whenever the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam gives us or gave us an advice on a matter, it is exactly in line with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, وَمَا يَنْطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَى إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَى. He does not speak from his own self, but rather he speaks a revelation that is given to him by Allah tabarak wa ta'ala. And as we know, Allah Jalla wa Ala is Al-Alim, Al-Hakim, the all-knowing, the all-wise. So whatever ruling was given to the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam, albeit more than 1400 years ago, even though we are living in times of technology and whatnot, the answer that was given then is the most appropriate thing now.
Timeless.
Timeless.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu. Shaykhna, wallahi, jazakumullah khairan. We've reached the end of our session. Dear viewers, join us next time as we continue this journey of the fiqh of Hajj. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.